Hello aspirants and welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In this lecture, we will be continuing with our prelims revision series. So we will now be starting with the social issues or Indian society as you may call it. It is also a part of GS mains, but here we will be emphasizing on the prelims preparation, especially with respect to, of course, prelims 2025, and we'll be covering the entire year's current affairs over here. So this is the initiative that has already started since 21st February. It's a part of it. So let's get started with the very first lecture on social issues, wherein we'll revise the entire year's current affairs. We'll club this because social issues news are less in number, so we'll club 3 months together, or as and when the number of months are required to be clubbed. So in this lecture you will be looking at news from May 2024, June 2024, as well as July 2024. So let's see what all is present in this. The very first thing is the women entrepreneurs in India. So there's a news about them. We'll say what is the importance of this news with respect to prelims. Then localizing the SDG, women in local governance in India. Then we'll talk about social infrastructure. We'll see the examples of social infrastructure. A direct question can be consider the following and tell us which of the following are social infrastructure. So you should know what they are. Then we look at the Supreme Court judgment on the Juvenile Justice Act. So Juvenile Justice Act, with respect to that, there is a decision made in the case with respect to CCL, that is child in conflict with law. So who is a child in conflict with law? All those things and more we'll see here. Then we'll look at the World Migration Report. So whenever we talk about any report, any index, the most important thing is, of course, what is that report all about, who has brought in, and a small amount of few top key findings of that particular report. So there will be a lot of reports when it comes to social issues. So we'll see the World Migration Report 2024, then we'll see the Global Gender Gap Report, we'll see the Global Food Policy Report, so on and so forth, as well as UNICEF's Child Nutrition Report. So all these reports we are going to see, plus we look at the topic of child labor, why is it in news, what is important with respect to prelims in that, then immunization in India, and finally the Operation Nanne Farishte of the railways. We'll see that as well. Now, before we dig deep into each and every topic in detail with respect to prelims, a few important announcements I would like to make here about the regular batches that are going to start from 17th April as well as 12th May 2025. So aspirants who are striving for 2026 or beyond should focus on these batches. These are regular batches, means it will go from Monday to Friday. You will be here in the classroom. You can attend it online as well from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So the first session happens from 10 to 1 p.m. of 3 hours. There's a break of another 1 hour, and then the next session, evening session or the afternoon session, from 2 to 5 p.m. Right. Now, there can be extra sessions you can avail which are discretionary. If you want to, you can avail those sessions as well. Then of course there will be special classes, special skill development classes, all of which will be part of this entire program. So you can join this. This is suitable for people who are full-time aspirants, means you are not doing any job, or you are not a student, not going to college. So you are preparing full time, so you can be here Monday to Friday giving your all for UPSC preparation. For those who will be working professional, for example, I went on to give my personality test while being a working professional. So for working professionals or students probably who are going to colleges, etc., for them the weekend batches may suit, in which you will be coming to classes on Saturdays as well as Sunday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So these are the programs you can opt for. Now, one more important thing is, especially for those appearing in prelims 2025, it is not restricted to them, but specifically for them, they can subscribe and give the free All India Prelims Test Series, which Legacy IAS Academy has come up with. You will be getting All India ranking, you will be getting detailed discussion, detailed solution, as well as live discussion of those papers will be provided to you. Very beneficial. I would in fact advise 2026 people to also attempt and see where you are with respect to the preparation. Shalom. Having said that, let's now begin with the current affairs of social issues for 3 months, that is May, June and July 2024. The very first thing is the women entrepreneurship in India. So recently what has happened is the Reserve Bank Innovation Hub. So this is an organization that is RBIH, Reserve Bank Innovation Hub. Now it has released a white paper, means a document that is titled At the Helm, Women Entrepreneurs Transforming Middle India. Women Entrepreneurs Transforming Middle India. This report emphasizes, puts emphasis on the importance of involvement of women entrepreneurs in the development story of India. Now this study that has been done in the white paper, it is aimed at understanding the complex socio-economic dynamics affecting women's entrepreneurship in Middle India. Now, what is meant by Middle India? That concept can be important. So, with Middle India, we mean the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So, top India would be tier 1, tier 4, etc. will be, India below the low India. And the Middle India that you talk about are tier 1 and tier 2 cities that we are talking about. Now, some of the facts with respect to women entrepreneurship is given here. You need not know them exactly, but a ballpark figure should be known that around 13.76% of entrepreneurs are women. So it is close to 14%. Is it half? No. Is it 1/3? No. Is it 1/4? No. Even less than that, that is all you have to remember, which will be enough to eliminate options when it is asked. Now, 57th place of India among 65 countries in MasterCard Index of Women Entrepreneurship. So that is not a good place to be, because just 65 countries are involved, and among 65 countries, India is placed 57th, which is quite a low number with respect to MasterCard Index of Women Entrepreneurs. Now, 17% of contribution to GDP by women in India, which is well below the global average of 37. So what is to be remembered here is that the global average is more than double than the percentage in India, that is just 17, less than 1/4. Reasons can be, you don't have to go into the reasons, but probably if asked, you should know that the reason can be, for example, the unpaid labor that the women are involved in, the low wages that the women have. As a result of all this, the GDP share is lesser. And of course, the low labor force participation of women is also one of the reasons. Now, second is localizing the SDGs, means localizing the sustainable development goals, women in local governance in India. So we are talking about two things here. One is localization. Second is the involvement of women. So what this news is all about, recently the elected women representatives of the Panchayati Raj institutions, that is the PRIs, they participated in an event. What was the event? Event was localizing the SDGs, women in local governance in India, lead the way. This event took place at the United Nations headquarters, which you can see here. It took place over here, which talked about localizing the SDGs, means achieve the, see, if you want to achieve at a larger scale, at the global scale, what you have to do is achieve it at the national stage. For that, what you have to, national stage. For that, what you have to do is achieve it at the state level. For that, what you have to do is achieve it at the lower level, the grassroots level, the Gram Panchayat level, the regional level. So once these small pockets of achievement are there, it will anyhow lead or combine to the big goal of achieving the SDGs. So remember, this particular event took place in United Nations headquarters. Now, what does localizing SDG mean? It means that enabling the local government and communities. You need to enable the local government and communities to make them as a catalyst. Now, catalyst is what? Catalyst is someone who is involved in a process which fasten the pace of process. So this term comes from chemistry, wherein when two different let's say elements, they react, they may not react just like that. They may require a catalyst to react. Sometimes the catalyst can be the sunlight. Without sunlight, they will not react. With the presence of sunlight, they will start reacting. So sunlight acts as a catalyst. So this is exactly what it's trying to mean over here is we have a goal to achieve. Now the local people, the regional people, the local level government should act as a catalyst of change to support the achievement of the global goals. So remember this word capitalist. Remember that this event took place in United Nations headquarters, and this is what we are talking about, localizing the SDGs. All the 17 SDGs need to be approached in this manner in order to involve the low level or the lowest level or the bottommost level of governance system as well. Next is the concept of social infrastructure. Now, why this is in news? Because Ministry of Labor and Employment has joined the PM Gati Shakti portal. PM Gati Shakti portal to identify and bridge gaps in social security coverage. Now, what is this Gati Shakti portal? Gati Shakti portal consists of a lot of schemes which are on that portal, which also helps you to track those schemes, know the life status of the portal, so on and so forth. So recently, the the Ministry of Labor and Employment has also joined the PM Gati Shakti portal. Now, this is the National Master Plan for Multi-Modal Connectivity. That is what PM Gati Shakti portal is all about. Now, the important thing over here is, what is social infrastructure? So if you talk about social infrastructure, it includes assets which provides for social services. Any asset that provides for social service can be considered as social infrastructure. So of course, educational institutions, health institutions, as well as washing, sanitation facilities, and even housing can be considered as social institution. These are the options that you should know in order to help you in prelims. So what is it? You have home, you have education, you have local services, sanitation, water pipeline, etc., workspaces, etc. All these things are provided by the government. Now, because they are helpful to the society, because they are providing social services. Social services means services to the society. It can be any service that is being provided to the society, then it can be said to be social infrastructure. Now, next up is the Supreme Court's judgment on Juvenile Justice Act. Now, here what has happened is Supreme Court has given a judgment in the child in conflict with law through his mother versus the state of Karnataka. Now, this was the case. Child in conflict through his mother versus state of Karnataka. Now, in this, it dealt with Act's provision for preliminary assessment of CCL in heinous offenses. Now, understand what this is all about. See, what happens is, a child is considered up till the age of 18 years. Anyone of 18 years and above is considered as an adult. However, we have seen in India, elsewhere also, and in India specifically, because this act is with respect to India, we have seen certain heinous crimes that has happened. And in those crimes, the age of the child is around 16 years, 17 years. So there has been a demand of considering this particular child as an adult and making the child go through the trial as an adult and not as a child, because the crime is of heinous nature. So that was the dilemma in front of the court. Previously, it has been there, and many a times it has allowed, there has been a argument to allow the child to be treated as an adult and tried as an adult. But then from various other quarters, there has been a request to not to do so. In fact, many people have said counter arguments as well, saying that the entire brain does not completely develop even up to the age of 20, 21, 22, so on and so forth. So lowering the age further is not going to help. So this can be, of course, a very good question with respect to your mains, ethics, society, etc. But here we will be dealing with what the judgment has talked about. Now, when you talk about child in conflict with law, what does this mean? This means that the child below 18 years of age who is allegedly or who has been alleged or found to have committed an offense. So whenever a child who is of the age below 18 years has been alleged to or found to commit a crime, then that child is said to be a child in conflict with law, because the child, what the child has done is going in conflict with the law of the land which exists. Now, what are the key highlights of the judgment? Now, the judgment said that the appeal against the preliminary assessment of the order of the Juvenile Justice Board. So there needs to be certain assessment with respect to the age of the child, with respect to the fact whether the child need to be allowed to be put on trial as an adult or not. That assessment will be done by the Juvenile Justice Board under the Juvenile Justice Act. So the decision, whatever the decision is taken, you can appeal against the decision. So the appeal against this preliminary assessment by the Juvenile Justice Board would be filed before the children's court and not the session courts wherever available. So the judgment, earlier what was happening, it was being filed against the sessions court. Now it will not be filed against the sessions court, it will still be filed against the children's court only. This is the change which you need to remember. Further, court has prescribed 30 days timeline for preferring such or producing such appeal. So you have 30 days of time to come up with such appeal. The time period of 3 months prescribed for completion of preliminary assessment. The preliminary assessment that we talked about, there is a timeline for this, that is of 3 months prescribed. That is 3 months are prescribed for that. However, this timeline is not mandatory but merely directory in nature. The court is directing that it should be done in 3 months, but it is not mandatory. In prelims, simply the words can be switched and you can be given that it is mandatory and not directory. It's wrong. It is actually directory and not mandatory in nature. Next up is the World Migration Report. Now, International Organization for Migration, that is the IOM. This is the IOM, the United Nations Migration Agency, which is the International Organization for Migration. It has released the World Migration Report 2024, and it has given some interesting numbers, some interesting name of the countries and the migration from which country to where it is happening. It has given all those data. So what are the key findings? It says that the factors that are driving the global displacement are conflict and climate change. So previously also these two were the top reasons. Now also these two are the top reasons. So climate change is what? Significant amount of increase in extreme weather events, too many heat waves, too much of flooding, too much of droughts, etc., etc. Things related to climate change basically. If you are being displaced because of climate change, right? The first thing is the conflict. Conflict means conflict can be ethnic conflict, ethnic violence, caste-based, religion-based, race-based, so on and so forth. When those conflicts can be between the government and the civilian revolt, etc. Those are the concept of conflict. So conflict and climate change remain the most significant reasons for displacement of people in the world. Now, if you look at total international migrants, about 281 million, that is 28.1 crore people worldwide, of which 117 million, that means 11.7 crore are displaced, which of course is marking the highest level ever recorded. So this is close to the population of entire United States of America. So it's a quite high number that we are talking about. Now, a very interesting data that this report gives us is about the pair of countries. Pair of countries means the country from where people are migrating to the country where people are migrating. What is the number is what they have given. So the topmost, in the news you might have heard, in fact, when the presidential elections in USA were going on, there were a lot of voices in support of Donald Trump, also because people who were supporting Trump knew that when Trump comes into power, he would put an end to migration that is happening from Mexico, right? Elon Musk and all were also supporters of that. And you can clearly see the numbers over here. You can see that it is the topmost. So when you talk about people migrating from Mexico to United States of America, it is highest. In fact, it is almost triple than the second pair of country wherein Syrian Arab Republic to Turkey migration is happening. Then later on, very interestingly, see, Ukraine, Russia are in conflict. Third pair of country is people migrating from Ukraine to Russian Federation. Then you have from India to United Arab Emirates and Russian Federation. To Ukraine is also happening, but it is less than the other one. Then India to United States of America is also happening. Now this migration, the entire migration is not forceful, not the displacement migration. Remember, displacement is you are no longer able to stay in that particular region due to XYZ reason. That is why you have to migrate. That is the displacement. That is forceful. This data includes the voluntary migration as well. That is why such high numbers for India, USA and India, UAE as well. Then you have from Afghanistan to Iran, Kazakhstan to Russia, India to Saudi Arabia, and very interestingly, Bangladesh to India. Now in Bangladesh to India, we can easily, it would be safe to say that a lot of it would be displacement. There, contrast it with the atrocities that is happening in Bangladesh over the minorities that is there. Plus, not just the minorities that would have an influx in India, even the majority may influx to India because of the push migration from Bangladesh, because the situation in Bangladesh is not good at all. As a result of which you see a high number over here as well. Now, this report is brought out by the International Organization for Migration, so you should know a bit about it. Now, of course, it is a part of the United Nations system. You should know any organization if it's a part. Some organizations do not have the word UN written in front of them, still are a part. That's point number one. Point number two, there are 15 specialized organizations of United Nations. You should know all those 15. Going ahead, around 175 member states. Is India a member? Yes, India is a member of International Organization for Migration. What is the objective? Saving lives and protecting people who are on the move, who are migrating, providing them shelter, helping them, saving their lives basically. Initiatives, Global Compact for Migration is what the initiative they have taken to save the lives of the migrants. And of course, it brings out the World Migration Report that we just now saw. Going ahead, the next report we talk about is the Global Gender Gap Report. Now, this particular report is released by World Economic Forum. Now, when you remember the organization which releases the report, sometimes it makes a huge amount of sense, but sometimes means sense in the sense you may be able to remember it logically, but some reports you may not be able to, or it may go against the common held belief. So if we are talking about Global Gender Gap Report, we might think there might be some organization related to social issue which would be releasing this report, but we are talking about World Economic Forum, which is related to economy. So why is this organization releasing the report? So the reason is varied, because World Economic Forum wants prosperity of the world, which is not possible unless and until you ensure that women are also involved in it. So they also can bring out this report. So remember it specifically if certain things are not in sync with respect to the commonly held belief. Now, so coming back to the topic, the Global Gender Gap Report is brought out by World Economic Forum. It is based on the Global Gender Gap Index, which annually benchmarks the current state and evolution of gender parity based on 14 indicators across 4 key dimensions. 14 indicators across 4 key dimensions we look at. Now, this Global Gender Gap Index, it is a composite of 4 different, we are talking about 4 key dimensions. So the Global Gender Gap Index, if you see, it is coming out to be 68.5%. That is the thing. Now, if you look at the different dimensions in which you will get different answers. Now, 100%, the higher it is, the better it is, more parity it is. Remember that. It is very clear. It is measured from 0 to 100%. 100% equals full parity, even Stevens equality. So now let's look at it. Economic participation and opportunity sub-index, it's 60.5. Educational attainment, 94.9. Health and survival sub-index, 96%. So highest in health and survival, second in educational, then third in economic participation and opportunity. It is worst in political empowerment sub-index, that is just 22.5%. This needs huge amount of improvement. That is why the number shows so down. If this can increase to 60% at least, we will have, I think, 720, you remove around 75% plus of it, in fact close to 80% if this can also be increased. This is pulling back the data a lot. This is already quite high. 95 quite high means as compared to this it is quite high. but this is the main point. So what you should remember is the hierarchy, in which it is the best: health and survival, then education, then economic participation, and finally political empowerment, which is the weakest of them all. Now, in this report, it is found that among the 146 countries, Iceland, a country with just around 25 lakh people, a very small country with very small amount of population, Iceland, Finland, Norway, New Zealand, and Sweden are the top 5 countries. Generally, in these kind of indices, you will find, the Nordic countries, etc., topping these rankings. Okay. Now, one interesting thing that it says that at the current rate of progress, it will take 134 years to reach full parity, which is quite a long time. This is a reality. Now, overall, India was ranked 129th out of how many? Out of just 146 countries. Previously, we were ranked 127. So, we have in fact fallen down with respect to the Global Gender Gap Report or the index. And it is 5th in South Asia after, surprisingly, literally surprisingly, after Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Bhutan. And since this is a surprise, you should specifically remember this, or else you may make mistake in the exam. Now, some of the countries with respect to whom we are doing better, for example, in South Asia, for example, Pakistan, you will clearly, logically be able to guess it. But if this does not logically make sense, which it doesn't, specifically remember that as well. Now, next is UNICEF, which has released the Child Nutrition Report 2024. Now, this Child Nutrition Report, it reveals severe child food poverty, which is defined as children's inability. Child food poverty. Poverty means what? Inability to address the basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter. So, child food poverty will be inability to access the food. So, that is what it is. Children's inability to access, consume a nutritious and diverse diet in early childhood, that is the first 5 years of life. Access a nutritious and diverse food in early childhood, that is basically first 5 years of life. Now, in this, the index or the measurement that is done, it is said that minimum 5 different varieties have to be there. So if children are fed only 0 to 2 types or groups of food per day, they are living in severe child food poverty. If they are served to 3 to 4 types, they are living in moderate child food poverty. If they are getting 5 or more, means more than equal to 5 or more food groups per day, they are not living in child food poverty. Now, this is out of a total of 8 different foods that is being talked about. The very first is the breast milk. Of course, breastfeeding is very important, so this is considered as first. Then you have grains, roots, tubers, then you have pulses, dairy products, fish, meat, poultry and fish, eggs, vitamin A rich fruits and vegetables, and other fruits and vegetables. So these are the 8. Based on this 8, how many different types of variety is the child getting will decide whether the child is having food poverty or not. Next is child labor. Child labor is news because the 25th anniversary of the International Labour Organization's Convention number 182. This convention, there are different convention numbers of ILO. Some of the important ones you can remember. So ILO convention number 182, it had its 25th anniversary. Now this convention deals with what? Worst forms of child labor, and it's the first ILO convention to be universally ratified. So two important information. 182 deals with worst forms of child labor, and it is the first ILO convention to be universally ratified. Now, India ratified in 2017 along with Convention 138, which deals with minimum age of employment. So, 182 is against child labor, 138 is for minimum age of employment. Next is Global Food Policy Report. Now, Global Food Policy Report has been released by International Food Policy Research Institute, that is IFPRI. It is themed around, theme is also very important. If any report has a theme, you should remember it. Theme is food systems for healthy diets and nutrition. Now, next, immunization in India. So this particular thing with respect to immunization has been brought out by WHO and UNICEF. So WHO and UNICEF's estimates of national immunization coverage 2023 has been released. So who has released it? WHO and UNICEF together combined. So what is the situation of immunization in India? It is said that childhood immunization coverage stalled in 2023, leaving 2.7 million children either unvaccinated or under-vaccinated. Unvaccinated means no vaccination. Under-vaccinated means the number of vaccination is less than how many it should be. One more important thing is over 50% of unvaccinated children live in 31 conflict affected countries. So this is a very staggering number. So 30 countries means just 15% of the entire world's countries is constituting 50% of such population of unvaccinated children, which is a very staggering number. Now in 2023, 1.6 million children missed the crucial diphtheria, pertussis and tetanus, together called as the DPT vaccination and measles vaccination. Okay. More importantly, there is a concept of zero dose. Now, what are zero dose? See, first let's take the number. India accounts for around 2 million zero dose children. Now, zero dose children are those that basically lack the access to or are never reached by routine immunization services. They do not have the access, or the routine immunization services never reach out to them. These are the zero dose children we are talking about. And then finally, it is the Operation Nanne Farishte. So Operation Nanne Farishte is being carried out by the Railway Protection Force, a very beautiful job that they are doing. So presently around 84,119, almost close to 1 lakh children were rescued by the Railway Protection Force under Operation Nanne Farishte. Nanne Farishte means basically child angels, small angels, right? In the last 7 years, this is the data that we have. So close to 1 lakh people have been saved. Now it is a mission dedicated to rescuing the children in need of care and protection across various Indian railway zones. Now see, probably we can relate this particular job to police, the police which is there with respect to the civilians and criminal issues that are there. But why is railway police doing this? See, many times it so happens that these children who are in need of care and protection, probably they have run away, so they go through the trains here and there in different stations and roam about, or maybe they are made to beg, etc., etc. A lot of them may be found at the railway stations, near the railway tracks, etc., etc. So then those children were being rescued, so automatically an operation was created on top of it. So earlier, initially, not suo, but it was happening that some children were being rescued. So when you get to know you rescue it, that was a very passive mode of rescue thing which was happening. But when the realization was there that too many children are in need in these areas where the Railway Protection Force can help, they created an operation out of it and now actively trying to save and rescue these children and doing a commendable job of rescuing close to 1 lakh people in the last 7 years. So remember, this Operation Nanne Farishte is that of the Railway Protection Force. So these were the important news of these 3 months. In the next session, we will be moving ahead with the subsequent months on social issues. Thank you.